Most Klaviyo flow tutorials make this way more complicated than it needs to be. Because if you run an e-com brand, you do not need 15 different flows to make email work. You need a few that drive the majority of your revenue first. So in this flow course, I'm going to walk you through the core Klaviyo email flows every e-com brand should have in place. The flows that cover your customer journey from the moment someone joins your email list to when they browse, to when they add a product to their cart, and even after they buy. And the reason this matters is simple. If these email flows are weak, you are leaving money on the table every single day. But if these email flows are set up properly, they can turn your email channel into a consistent revenue machine. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll start with your welcome flow, because that's the foundation. Then we'll move into the browse abandonment flow, so you can recover people who showed interest but didn't take the next step. And after that, we will cover the abandoned cart and abandoned checkout flow, which is one of the highest leverage flows in the entire Klaviyo account. And finally, we will finish with the post-purchase flow, because getting the first sale is great, but increasing your LTV is how you actually grow your business. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly which flows matter most, why they matter, and how they fit together into one system. So let's start with the first and most important one, the welcome series flow. So before we get into the exact welcome series flow structure that I would recommend, let's first discuss why the welcome series flow matters more than ever in 2026. Because most e-com brands, they are overpaying for their traffic and undermonetizing it. So they spend aggressively on meta ads on Google, TikTok, influencers, affiliates, landing pages, just to get people to their website. And then they just let those people leave without nothing but just a pixel hit. And that is expensive, if you may know, as an e-commerce brand owner. And worse, it creates a fragile business model where growth depends on buying even more traffic every month just to maintain the same result. And the welcome series flow is one of the fastest ways to reduce that pressure for every e-com brand. It monetizes the exact people you already paid for to attract. So this is the key shift. Your welcome series flow is not just a brand introduction sequence, it's a conversion system. So if someone signs up, that means there is some intent. Maybe not full buying intent yet, but enough curiosity, enough interest, and enough awareness to take an action for them. And that window, it closes fast. So the first 72 hours after a sign up matters the most for every e-com brand. And this is where almost all of the welcome flow revenue happens. So in account after account, when we look at the analytics, the overwhelming majority of the welcome flow revenue is generated inside the first 3 days after someone is signing up. As you can see on this screenshot, what you see in here is the conversion by days from subscription. And as you can see, by far the highest number of conversion is on day 0. So the first day that someone is signing up for your newsletter. And after that, it quickly goes down. And after 3 days, usually there's only a bare minimum amount of revenue that you could still generate with your welcome flow. So again, this just shows you that the first 72 hours after sign up matters the most, because the reason is quite simple. The momentum is the highest at the moment that people or someone is signing up, because they just discovered your brand. They just gave you their email. They're still comparing options and they're still considering whether to buy from you or from one of your competitors. So if they do not buy within the first 72 hours, the odds of conversion drop hard. And at that point, one of two things usually happen. So either they bought from someone else, from one of your competitors, or they just lost momentum and they just moved on and they're not interested in your product anymore. So that means that the old approach of building a very stretched out welcome flow over 10, 14, or 21 days is often inefficient. And I see this go wrong all the time with like super long welcome flows just to build like a relationship with this new email subscriber. But the reality is just simply different. You do not want a slow drip. You want a front-loaded sequence that takes full advantage of the fresh intent you just have. So that's what this guide is built around. Before we go to the next part, just a quick side note. I have a free email marketing course on my website that breaks down all these exact systems in a lot more detail. It's completely free and it cuts out all the fluff. So if you want access, check out the link in the description below. And yes, it also contains this doc that I'm sharing with you right now in this video. All right, let's keep it going. So the real problem e-commerce brands are facing, most brands do not have a traffic problem. They have a monetization problem. So they are paying to generate clicks, sessions, signups, but they do not have the backend system strong enough to convert those signups quickly. And that creates three problems for e-commerce brands. So the first problem is that the blended CAC keeps rising because too much traffic leaks out of the funnel without converting. Second, email gets blamed unfairly because people look at the top line email revenue instead of asking whether the welcome series is actually capturing first-time buying intent. And third, brands become too dependent on retargeting ads to recover the people they already paid for once. And that is just bad margin math. So a strong welcome series reduces that dependency. It improves the first-time buyer conversion, it improves the payback speed, and it improves the economics of acquisition. And it builds trust at the exact moment people are deciding whether you are worth buying from, because that's often the issue. People, they need to have some trust in your brand to decide if you're worth buying from. So what the welcome series is actually supposed to do. So the welcome series flow is not there to just nurture people for weeks. Don't do that. Its job is quite simple, just to turn new email subscribers into customers as fast as possible and otherwise give hesitant buyers enough trust to buy from you later. So that means your welcome series flow needs to do three things well. Deliver the offer you promised them in the sign-up form, build confidence to buy from you right now, and guide people towards the right product. That's the only thing. That's it. So if your welcome flow is too brand heavy, too story heavy, or just simply too slow, you're wasting the moment of the highest intent. So the first email usually generates the most revenue because people, they just want the offer they signed up for. So that's completely normal. Email 1 is getting the vast majority of your revenue, but emails after that are what separate mediocre welcome series flows from the strong ones. So that's really what we want to focus on. Because once the first email is sent, the strategy simply changes. You're not just delivering the offer, you're building conviction. And that conviction can come from social proof, it can come from brand credibility, product education, objection handling, USPs, category guidance, bestsellers, founder credibility, urgency. And of course, you don't need every angle in every Klaviyo account or every welcome flow, but you do need a sequence that increases confidence quickly, just to make sure that people will buy from you as soon as possible. Now, with that being said, let's get into the recommended Klaviyo welcome series flow structure that I would recommend for e-commerce brands in 2020. So this is the structure that I recommend. So first of all, the flow trigger is, of course, when someone is added to your main list. Oftentimes that's the list newsletter, flow filters, placed orders 0 times, overall time. So we want to make sure that only people who've never done a purchase at your store will receive this welcome series flow. We don't want people to resubscribe again and then they receive your welcome discount again. So the structure that we recommend is a first email that we send immediately after sign up. Then we send a second email on the same day, 8 hours later, which is a reminder. 16 hours later, email 2, and then we send daily emails up until email 6. So before we dive into the exact structure and what I would recommend for each email, let me show you how to create this flow inside Klaviyo. So we're in one of our demo accounts of Klaviyo. So what we'll do in the left menu, we're going to flows, and then in the top right corner, we click on create flow. And then if you just search for welcome, we can see that Klaviyo has some default flows on their own. So for example, we see this one, which is an SMS flow. So we're not going to focus on that right now. But if we click on this one, you can see this is the email flow. So if we click on this one, this is a version where they have a version for returning customers and non-buyers. But let's take this one as a base just to add it. For the trigger, make sure to select the right list. In this case, it's the newsletter list. So we're going to hit use template, and then we're just going to tweak it to make sure it follows the right filters and time delays. So first, the filters. So re-entry criteria. We do not want people to re-enter, of course. They can just enter the welcome series once, and then after that, they cannot re-enter it again. Profile filters. So we want to add a profile filter, which is going to say what someone has done, has placed order 0 times, overall time. Again, this is to make sure that if someone already has done a purchase before and for some reason they still got the sign up form and they try to subscribe, that they won't receive the actual flow with the discount. So we're going to hit save. And now we're going to build the actual flow. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove the existing customer version. So we're going to hit the three dots, hit delete. We're going to move this on top of here, and then we can remove this conditional split because we're not going to use that. And then we're just going to delete both parts. There we go. Then we have email 1A. That's how I like to call it. And then instead of waiting 3 days, like Klaviyo is recommending with the default flow, we just want to wait 8 hours. And then we want to send email 1B, which is a plain text email. Email 1A, of course, is going to give the discount code that you promised them in the sign-up form. Now, after email 1B, and again, I'm going to go more in depth on these emails a bit later. After email 1B, we want to add a time delay of 16 hours. So then in total, we're 24 hours in. And then we want to make sure that we send email number 2. One thing to keep in mind, make sure to turn off smart sending and to turn on UTM tracking. Smart sending, if you turn it on, it will basically skip anyone who received an email from you within the last 16 hours. And you can change the time frame. So instead of 16 hours, you can make it 12 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever. But typically for flows, you always want to turn off smart sending because flows are based on triggers. So it is important that people receive those emails. So always turn off smart sending for flows. For campaigns, you should turn it on. So that's important to keep in mind. So we have to adjust that over here as well. And for email 1A, already turned off. Great. So then we have email 2 up here. Then we want to add 1 day later. We want to add email 3. Then we want to add another time delay of 1 day for email 4. Turn off smart sending. Turn on UTM tracking. Then again, 1 day later, email 5. And then 1 day later, email 6. So a pretty basic setup, to be honest. But as you can see, we front load the sequence with 2 emails on day 1. So we make use of that momentum on the first day. So with that being said, let's get into the specifics of this structure and what every email should include. So email 1A. So this is, of course, the most important email in the entire welcome flow. The subscriber, they just signed up because they wanted something, the discount code that you promised them in your sign-up form. So oftentimes you will say, hey, do you want 10% off your first order or do you want a mystery discount? People sign up. They only want one thing. They don't want the latest and greatest news on your brand. No, they just want the discount code. So give it to them immediately. Do not bury the discount codes. Do not make them work for it. Do not overcomplicate the hero section. What this email needs to do is just deliver the promise incentive clearly, show the most logical products to buy first, really important, and reduce friction with trust builders and risk reversals. So what needs to be inside? First of all, a strong above the fold section with the offer, the discount code, and one-click call to action. And if you don't know, the above the fold section, that's the first thing that people see when they open your email, whether that's on mobile or on desktop. So without having to scroll, what do they see? That's the above the fold section. And that part should already include your offer, your discount code, and a call to action button. Why? Because the vast majority of the people, 90 to 99% of people, only see your above the fold section and then just skip out on your email. So that's why you want to make sure that you maximize that area. Then after that, you want to show like 1 to 3 bestsellers or a start here selection, basically. So guide them towards a specific product or category. And when applicable, you can show trust builders such as reviews, press mentions, expert endorsements, social proof, and of course also things like risk reversals such as free shipping, free returns, a guarantee that you might have, some warranty that you might have, or a free trial. To show an example, this is a welcome flow email that we made for Grip of Art. So the above the fold section, super simple. Welcome to Grip of Art, 10% off your first order. Use code shop 10% off. It's not super fancy, but it gets the job done. It's super easy for people to understand what this is, and people can just buy straight away from this email. Then if you scroll down, then we have a small introduction on the brand. We remind them of the discount code again, and we send them towards a specific collection. And we even highlight bestsellers, canvas editions, and some new arrivals over here, and some XL paintings. And then again, the bottom of the email in this case, we remind them again of the discount and discount code with a CTA. So Super easy, super minimalistic, especially for this brand, but it gets the job done and the conversion is just crazy. Now, email 1B. So if someone signs up today, you should not wait 24 hours to follow up. And that's why we send email 1B 8 hours after email 1A, because the momentum is the highest on day 0, as I showed you before with the graph. So the second email on the same day often drives a surprising amount of incremental revenue. Trust me, you've tested this many, many times before, and the results are just insane. And to be honest, it's not that weird. And it's also not too much. And I know this is a concern e-commerce brands often have, but we're just simply taking advantage of the highest intent moment in the entire welcome flow. So the angle of this email is just a simple, plain text, founder style reminder. So short, direct, and human. So something like, hey, just making sure you saw your code. And then just point them back towards your bestsellers, your bundles, your top categories, or just the most logical first purchase that someone can do. So what needs to be inside? Plain text founder style message, a reminder on the discount code, 1 or 2 simple product or category references, and a direct CTA to your site. So this email just works because it feels personal and intimate. In 2026, as I explained many, many times before in my previous videos, conversational emails, they continue to perform well because your inbox, Gmail, Outlook, etc., they reward engagement and human feeling content. And that's why this plain text email just works really, really well. No email example in here because it's just a plain text email. So based on this information, you probably get a sense of how this email should look like. Then we get into email 2. And this is where you start increasing the confidence at the sides of your new email subscriber. So we do not want to do this with fluff or with brand poetry, but we want to do this with substance. So who are you? Why should someone trust you? What makes your brand worth buying from you over the alternatives that they're looking at right now? So for some brands, this can be a founder story. For others, it's their mission statement, quality standards, ingredients, sourcing, craftsmanship, or a product philosophy. So it really depends on the niche and brand that you are. But what needs to be inside? Of course, a reminder of the welcome discount, a clear trust-building narrative, a brand backstory or mission if it actually matters, some founder presence if credible and relevant, and a clear CTA. So just a strategic note for this one, do not make this email too long. I see this go wrong all the time with like big paragraphs of text. Don't make it too long. The goal is not to tell your entire life story. The goal is to reduce uncertainty and to increase the belief in your brand. So just an example for a brand called Franny and Zoe. So we say, meet the human behind the cats. Hi, I'm Casper, the founder of Franny and Zoe. So a quick introduction on this person, a picture of the founder with an image of a cat. That always works if you show a pet in your emails. And we remind them of the discount code in here. So a super short, personal, founder-led email from the founder in this case with a reminder on the discount. Super easy, super simple, but it just works really, really well. So email 3. A lot of your email subscribers do not buy from you because they're feeling overwhelmed. They do not know what they should buy from you, basically. So that's why this email is super important, because you want to guide them towards the first purchase. So do not assume that people know what to do with the discount code you gave to them. You have to tell them. So what needs to be inside this email? 1 to 3 bestsellers or best collections, a simple benefit-led product positioning, clear expectations of why these are the best starting points, and of course a reminder on their welcome gift. So make sure that you talk about benefits, not just about features, because people do not care about the product specs first. They want to know what the benefit for them is. They only care about the outcomes. So an example of an email that we made for Circular. So a top bar with a reminder on the discount code. And then in the email itself, another reminder on their welcome gift. And then we say, hey, go further for longer with these bestsellers. And then remind them of the energy bars, energy gels, and the drink powders. So we say, hey, 50 grams of plant-based carbs to keep you moving. That's the benefit. Fast energy with dual carbs for quick absorption, and hydration and endurance fuel in one. So just 3 bestsellers that we highlight in this email. Super simple. Show the best sellers, explain why people need it, and remind them of the discount that you gave them in email 1, which leads to email 4. So by this point, if they still have not bought from your brand, it usually comes down to friction. They're hesitating. So now you answer the question they've not asked you directly. So why should they buy from you instead of one of your competitors? Why is the price justified to buy from you? Why should they trust the quality of your brand? Why should they act now? So what needs to be inside email 4? Your core brand USPs, the product or category level differentiators, objection handling, and of course, again, a discount reminder with, in this case, real urgency. So a clear deadline if applicable. Example over here for a brand called Empower Nutrition. So again, we have the top bar with a reminder on the discount code. And then the email itself, we have, hey, the difference is what's inside. Hint, only the cleanest ingredients. And then in the email itself, we explain why people should buy from this supplement brand and not just from another random supplement brand. Because of course, there's a lot of competition in this market. And yeah, we just explain what the benefits are of using these products. And we remind them of the discount code and we add some urgency to it. So hurry, this code expires in 48 hours. What you will notice with the welcome discounts codes that we use, we not just use welcome 10 in this case, but we or use unique discount codes or we use static codes that look like unique codes. So when we do use urgency, it not looks like fake urgency because everyone knows welcome 10 is not gonna expire. So that's important to keep in mind. And then we end it with a review as well over here. Now let's get into email 5. And this is going to be a straightforward email. So we want to use urgency to push for that first time purchase. So we want to communicate a deadline and show some social proof to make them feel comfortable buying from you. So what needs to be inside this email? A clear urgency deadline. So if in the previous email you used 48 hours left, then of course in this email you say 24 hours left. If you said or you haven't communicated a deadline in a previous email, you can now use 48 hours left. And it depends on the strategy that you're going with. And then just enter in like 1 to 3 good reviews to support the email. And what I mean with good reviews, oftentimes I see just some generic reviews in the emails. They just say like, hey, great product. But you really want to use reviews when possible, of course, that highlight a specific pain point, an objection, or something that, really grabs the attention from people and makes people feel recognized. Like, hey, this is me. And now this person is using the product and see the benefits of it. So really try to find some good reviews. And you can better use 1 good review than 3 just some generic reviews. Email 6. This is the close. By now, the goal is simple. We're going to give them one final reason to act. So what needs to be inside this email? A final reminder of the offer, some strong urgency. Again, you can use some reviews or authority signals or risk reversals, whatever fits your brand best and what's the strongest angle. This is also something that you should A/B test and highlight what to buy. And this email can work very well either as a designed email or as a plain text email. You basically want to test both and see what works best for your brand. So typically, if you do the previous email with like a 48-hour deadline, and in this email, you can use a 24-hour deadline in the plain text format, for example, and test it versus a designed version as well. What you can also do if email 4 was 48 hours left, email 5 is 24 hours left. Email 6 can be an extended sale. That's like an angle that we use often. And then you send it out as a plain text email from the founder saying, hey, we've extended your welcome discount for another 24 hours, but act fast. And that angle works super, super well. So there are like multiple routes that you can take depending on your brand and the results that you're getting. So the real 2026 strategy is to front load the welcome flow. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Do not spread your best persuasion across 2 weeks. So the best opportunity is within the first 72 hours after someone has signed up. This is where the attention is highest. The brand recall is the highest. The buying intent is the strongest. And the competitive evaluation is happening in real time. So this is when your welcome series flow has the most leverage. So structure your flow around speed rather than spreading it across 2-3 weeks. And then a final tip, and that's to add more emails. So should you cap your welcome series flow at just those 7 emails? Absolutely not, because a smart strategy for driving additional revenue is to integrate your top performing evergreen email campaigns into your welcome series flow. So you just want to take a look at the past campaigns that you've sent and identify which campaigns generated the best results for your brand, and check if these campaigns are like evergreen campaigns, which means that they're relevant all year long and you can use them all year long. And then if it worked as a campaign, just add them to your welcome flow and then they should generate some additional revenue afterwards as well. So that's a quick hack to squeeze out the most outside of your welcome flow. And of course, again, the momentum is in the first 72 hours. So do not expect like crazy returns on this, but it is an easy way to add some additional revenue if you had some high performing campaigns before. So evergreen campaigns, it can be how-tos, it can be blog promotions, reviews, user generated content, myth emails, product highlights, subscription promos, bundles, gift guides, educational emails. So all these types of campaigns, those are like evergreen campaigns that you can add to your welcome series flow if they performed strongly as an email campaign. And that's how you create a high converting welcome series flow inside Klaviyo in 2026. All right, so that's the welcome flow done. And if the welcome flow is your best system for converting brand new subscribers, the next flow is all about re-engaging people who already showed some buying intent, but weren't quite ready to pull the trigger. Because not everyone adds products to the cart right away. A lot of people, they just browse products, they view a product category, check out a few pages, and maybe compare options between you and your competitor, and then they just leave your store. And that doesn't mean that they're a bad lead. It usually just means they need a little nudge, and that's where the browse abandonment flow comes in. So now let's move into how to build a browse abandonment flow that brings those warm visitors back before they forget about your brand entirely. Let's dive into it. So first of all, what is the browse abandonment flow in case you don't know yet? So it's automated email sequence sent to visitors who checked out a product. So they've been on one of your product pages, but they didn't add the product to their cart. So it's like saying, hey, we saw you were interested. Here's a reminder. So what it does, it brings back visitors to the product that they've browsed. It tackles the hesitations by highlighting the benefits or reviews. It suggests complementary items to spark more interest and boost your revenue by converting browsers into buyers. So in short, it's basically your secret weapon for turning Windows shoppers into paying customers. And if you're not using it, you're missing out on the easy wins. And why this flow is even more important than you think, basically because most brands, they obsess over the cart abandonment flow. But here's the uncomfortable truth. So by the time someone adds a product to their cart, they already have a strong intent. The real leverage is earlier in the customer journey. So when someone views a product page and then leaves, they're not cold. They're just comparing, they're evaluating, they're thinking. And if you don't follow up, they'll buy from one of your competitors, because that's typically what we see. When they're watching your product page, at the same time, they have 3 other tabs with the same product, but then from your competitors. So the browse abandonment flow is how you stay in the decision process. And not with desperation, of course, not with instant discounts, but with controlled persuasion. So for brands that care about margin, LTV, and structural growth, this flow matters more than people often realize. So the strategic role of the browse abandonment flow, again, let's be clear about intent levels. The browse abandonment flow, it's not the same as the cart abandonment flow. Browse abandonment visitors, they've viewed the product page, they did not add it to the cart. They're often comparing alternatives and they are in evaluation mode. So it's mid-funnel psychology. And that changes everything. You're not recovering a lost sale yet. You're influencing a buying decision. It's a whole different game. So that means that trust matters even more than urgency. Objection handling matters more than giving away a discount. And positioning matters more than a promotion. And most brands get this wrong. They just treat their browse abandonment flow like a weak cart abandonment flow. And it's just not the same. It's a trust building mechanism. So that's important to keep in mind. So how to structure a good high converting browse abandonment flow in 2026. So of course, first of all, the flow trigger, it's a viewed product. We have a couple of flow filters. So placed order 0 times in starting this flow, checkout started 0 times in starting this flow, added to cart 0 times in starting this flow, and has not been in the flow in the last 30 days to have like a cooldown period. Then for the structure itself, we typically recommend a 4-part sequence where email 1 is just a simple reminder. Email 2 is the email where we're going to build that trust with your audience. And then email 3 and 4 is where we give away a discount. So we're not going to give away a discount in email 1 yet. We first want to convince them in other ways before we give away a discount. Now let me show you how you can build this flow inside your Klaviyo account. So we're here in one of our demo accounts, and what we're going to do in the left menu, we're going to close. Then in the top right corner, we hit create flow and then start with the essentials. You can already see a browse abandonment flow over here. So we're going to open this. We're going to call this browse abandonment demo flow, and we're gonna use template. Then first we're gonna set up all the flow filters. So allow re-entry after time period, so 30 days, that's all good. Profile filters, so checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, place order 0 times since starting this flow. And then I also like to include added to cart. So this Klaviyo account, this demo account is not linked to a Shopify store, so I don't have the Shopify add to cart trigger. If you use the Shopify store, make sure to use the Shopify add to cart trigger, not the API add to cart. Super important. And then we're going to hit 0 times since starting this flow and hit save. And then we have all the correct filters in place. Then the actual flow. So by default, Klaviyo recommends to wait 2 hours. I like to always A/B test anywhere between 30, 45 minutes up to 2 hours. For demo purposes, let's keep this at 1 hour. Basically, the closer people are towards their purchase, the sooner you want to email them. So with the site abandonment flow, it's anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. Browse abandonment is already a bit shorter. Cart abandonment flow even shorter. Checkout abandonment flow, you can even send it after 15 minutes. So you really want to close that gap. But with the browse abandonment flow, anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours is like a good starting point. Then we have email 1 over here. We're gonna add another time delay after 1 day. Then we're gonna clone this and make email 2. This is email 2. Then we're gonna clone this one for another time delay and add email 3. And then another time delay for email 4 as well. There we go. And what you wanna have in every email is a dynamic product block. So the way you can make this, we just gonna, in this case, we use like Klaviyo's default template. So if you're gonna go to the template and hit edit inside the template editor. So this is like the default template that we have from Klaviyo. So we already have the dynamic product block and this just works. So what I like to do is take this dynamic product block and just save it as universal content and call this dynamic product block browse abandonment flow. So we just take like Klaviyo's email flow, go to email 1, we save it as universal content, and then you can like edit it along the way to make it match your branding. That's just the easiest way rather than setting it up from scratch. This saves you like a lot of time. So now let's get into the flow itself. So what you might have seen is that we just use a simple structure with 4 emails and there's no split between non-buyers and returning customers. And we do that on purpose because I always recommend with the browse abandonment flow to not split between new and returning buyers in most cases, because this is where the browse abandonment flow is different from a cart abandonment flow where I do recommend to split between returning customers and non-buyers. Because in the cart abandonment flow, the intent is high. They added a product to their cart, so they were close. So splitting between first-time buyers and returning customers makes sense over there. But the browse abandonment flow is different. These people are window shoppers. Their buying intent is low, as I mentioned before. They're comparing, they're evaluating the alternatives. They're probably also looking at your competitors. And because of that, we generally do not recommend splitting between returning customers and non-buyers because even returning customers, they are in comparison mode. That they bought from you before doesn't mean that they're going to buy from you again. They're probably unsure again if they should buy from you again, especially if that first experience was not like top notch. So for the browse abandonment, it's usually beneficial to offer a small incentive in the escalation stage or guide them towards a subscription option if applicable, or offer like a bundle angle, or present like a compelling reason to act now, even for returning customers. So the goal here is to convert low intent into action and not to protect your loyalty perception. Now, there is one exception. So if your margins are extremely tight, and I know there are like niches, e-com brands out there who do have like super tight margins, then if you absolutely cannot afford an offer to offer an incentive to returning buyers, then you can consider a conditional split. But for most e-com brands who are doing serious volume, in all honesty, I think the incremental revenue from the converting browser abandonment traffic just outweighs the marginal discount cost, especially because these people were not high intent to begin with. So email 1 is just going to be a simple reminder. So timing matters. So we want to send this while they still remember you. So again, anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours after viewing the product on your website. Email itself should not be aggressive, so it's not sales heavy. It just simply says, hey, you are looking at this, are you still interested? And this email alone will probably already recover like a good percentage of high intent browsers who simply got distracted. So with this email, you're only going to capture like the high intent browsers. So what needs to be inside? A dynamic product block that shows the product that they viewed, a Klaviyo product feed that recommends 4 other products based on the product that they viewed, and some social proof. So reviews, user generated content, etc. So an example over here. So still thinking about it, return to store now. So above the vault section with a clear headline and call to action, some body copy with the dynamic product block, another call to action, and then you might like these based on like the product that they added to the cart. And that's it. Super easy, super simple. Another example is from Giorgio. So don't let this delicious moment pass. So this is a visual email. We show the product that they've watched with a call to action, and then we show some user generated content / reviews over here to convince people to return to the store and buy these delicious biscottis. So that's also an angle that you can use. Then email 2, that's where we really want to build trust. So if they didn't convert after email 1, there is probably some hesitation, which is completely normal in the browser abandonment flow. So this email should focus on removing that friction and not by adding pressure. So think like a buyer. If someone is comparing, they're probably wondering like, is this worth the price? Is this legit? What if it doesn't fit or work or last? Is there a better alternative? So your job here is not to sell harder. It's to reduce the uncertainty that this potential buyer has. And this is especially critical for higher AOV brands because they need like a lot more convincing. So what needs to be inside? First of all, your risk reversals, any guarantees, trials, free shipping, free returns, etc. Any risk reversals that you have, you want to show them inside this email. And if you don't have any strong risk reversals, you just want to focus on social proof and of course a dynamic product block to guide them back to the product that they viewed. So an example over here from Smoko. So feeling on the fence with some risk reversals and social proof over here. We show them the product they viewed with some call to action buttons around it. And then we say, hey, your order is 100% risk free with 3 more in-depth reasons why people should buy from this brand. Another example from Apparel Outpost. So still thinking about this one, fair. Again, a high dynamic product block, a CTA, and then we give them a really solid reason to buy because every tea they buy feeds 5 rescue dogs. And let's be honest, if you receive such an email, you would buy immediately, right? If your order feeds 5 rescue dogs. I mean, that's like a no-brainer. So a super simple but high converting email for this brand, even with an added review over here. Then email 3, by the time someone receives email 3, we need to be realistic. So they viewed the product, they ignored the reminder, they didn't convert after the trust building and the risk reversals. So this is not forgetfulness anymore. This is just simple hesitation. They don't know if they should buy from your store. And hesitation usually falls into one of 3 categories. So it's price sensitivity, it's comparison shopping, or I'll buy later procrastination. So email 3 is where we escalate, but intelligently. So the goal is to turn low intent into decision momentum. And you have 2 strong options over here. So option 1 is a time sensitive incentive. So we want to introduce a small incentive with a clear expiration date. So keep it at 48-hour discount, just a simple email, clean design, 1 clear call to action. So we don't want to overcomplicate this because this is not about training your audience to wait for discounts. It's about converting the mid-funnel traffic that likely wouldn't convert otherwise. So if your margins are healthy, this is usually worth it for most e-com brands. The second option is to push for a subscription model if you have it, or a bundle push. So if you have replenishable products, subscriptions, or bundles, this is an ideal moment to push them. So instead of discounting the one-time purchase, you want to position it as subscribe and save 10%, a bundle and save more, a starter kit discount, something like that. So this protects your margins while still giving them a reason to buy from you right now. So what needs to be inside? So a discount with a 48-hour deadline or a subscription/bundle push when applicable. So you show them a dynamic product block again, and optionally you can show them product recommendations with the Klaviyo product feed. So show 4 other products that might be interesting to them as well. So an example from Sealy, so 10% off just for you, save 10% now. So with some body copy, the code over here, and then the dynamic product block and play now. So super easy, super simple. Another example from Lost Interiors, enjoy 10% off today, use code, shop 10% off, bring it home today with the dynamic product block and a call to action. And you might like these as well with 3 recommended products in this case and a reminder of the discount code once again, and then a call to action. And then in the footer bar for this brand, since it's a furniture store, we even highlight that they have a physical store to build that trust once again. So that's how you do email 3. Then we have email 4, so the last chance for the discount. So this is your last escalation, and this is where most brands overdo it. So instead of more banners, more urgency graphics, and more noise, we simplify. So we just want to send a plain text email from the founder. So short, direct, and it has to sound like a human, you know? So because at this stage, like heavy design screams automation and plain text just feels personal. So we want to remind them of the discount code that you gave them in the previous email. We want to have some urgency, so only 24 hours left, and make it a plain text email from the founder or another team member from your team. Super simple example. Hi name, founder name here. Just a quick note to remind you that your exclusive X% off expires tonight at midnight. CTA, thanks again for checking our brand name and I hope to see you back soon. Super short, super easy, super personal. That's it. It's as simple as that. So just a strategic reminder, we do not split browse abandonment between new versus returning buyers in most cases, because again, browse abandonment is low intent. So even returning customers are comparison shopping. So the friction here is not loyalty, it's decision making. So unless your margins are extremely tight, running the same escalation logic for everyone usually drives more incremental profit. So just a reminder on that, I wouldn't recommend splitting this flow. But this is like the highest converting browse abandonment structure that you can use for your e-com store in 2026. So now you've seen how to use the browse abandonment flow to re-engage people who look at products but left before adding anything to the cart. This flow is powerful because it helps you to recover shoppers who are clearly interested in your brand, but still early in the decision-making process. Maybe they got distracted. Maybe they were comparing options. Maybe they just weren't ready yet. But there's another group of people you need to pay even closer attention to. These are the people who didn't just browse, they added your products to their cart. And that changes everything, because now the buying intent is much stronger. And at this point, the question usually isn't, are they interested? It's, what stopped them from finishing their checkout? And if you get that flow right, this is often where you can recover some of the easiest revenue in your Klaviyo account. So next, let's build your abandoned cart and checkout flow. So this is the structure that in general I recommend for e-commerce brands. So the flow trigger, first of all, is of course added to cart or checkout started, as I explained. There are some flow filters that you should set up. So place order 0 times in starting this flow. Checkout started 0 times in starting this flow, which is only for the cart abandonment flow, by the way, and has not been in the flow in the last 30 days. So the general flow that I recommend, email 1, is just going to be a simple reminder. So did you forgot something? We show the product that they added to the cart, and we show them some risk reversals. 1 day later, we sent email 2, so a personal check-in, which is just a simple plain text email from the founder. This works super well, and it just needs to be like a casual reminder, like should feel like a one-to-one email from the actual founder. So not salesy in any kind of way. Email 3 is going to be more of objection handling. So highlight the benefits of your brand and the product, show dynamic product blocking again, and give people a reason why they should buy from you and not from one of your competitors. After that, we want to make a split between non-buyers and returning customers. Because what I see go wrong all the time is that e-com brands are giving the same discount to returning customers as that they were giving to non-buyers. While returning customers, they already know and trust your brand. They already bought from you. So they don't need a discount to convince them to buy from you. Oftentimes they're just distracted. So I'm always a big fan of making a split between non-buyers and returning customers, where to non-buyers, since they don't know you that well, a financial nudge can definitely help them. So give them a discount. So we sent 2 emails to them. First, the opener, discount opener with a 48-hour deadline. And then 1 day later, the final discount reminder with a deadline of 24 hours. And this can be a plain text email from the founder again. For returning customers, I just want to have 1 email, a plain text check-in from the founder where you just offer support. Again, those are like returning customers, so they don't need a discount. But if you're like, okay, my ecom brand has like solid margins, I'm okay with giving away a discount to returning customers as well. Optionally, you can still offer them discounts, but I would always recommend to at least give them like a smaller discount. So let's say you give 50% off to your non-buyers. For returning customers, you can give 5 or 10%. And if you do give a discount, of course, 1 day later, I would follow up with them with like a final discount reminder. So this is like the general structure that I recommend. Now let's dive into a demo account, Klaviyo account, and show you how to set it up yourself. So we're in one of our demo accounts. So what you're going to do in your Klaviyo account, in the left menu, you're going to flows. And then in the top right corner, I'm going to hit create flow. And over here, you can see the essentials, but unfortunately, cart abandonment flow is not over here. But if we search for cart, you already can see the right flow. So if you have a Shopify store, I would always recommend to use the Shopify add to cart trigger. For this demo purposes, I don't have this account linked to a Shopify store, so I will use the basic add to cart trigger. But keep in mind, if you're using a Shopify store, use the Shopify add to cart trigger. I'm going to click on this one. This one has the manual icon. So this is not the one that you should be using, but this is just purely for demo purposes. So we're going to call this abandoned cart demo flow, use template. And then first of all, I like to set up all the flow filters. So first of all, you see checkout started 0 times in starting this flow and place order 0 times in starting this flow. So those are already like 2 of the triggers that are recommended. And lastly, what I like to do is has not been in the flow in the last 30 days. So that's what you can set up in here. So 30 days. And then we hit save. And then we have all the right filters in place. And then we're going to build the actual flow. So by default, Klaviyo is recommending to wait 4 hours. I think that's way, way too long. I always recommend testing something between 15 minutes up to 1 hour. So for this example, let's use 30 minutes. Basically, the closer you're getting to someone to purchase, the sooner you want to send them an email. So for example, with a site abandonment flow, we want to wait a couple of hours. But with the cart and abandoned checkout flow, we want to only wait like 15 or 30 minutes or max up to an hour. That's of course something that you should A/B test along the way. We're going to skip out on the SMS for now. So I'm just going to move email 1 over here. And let's remove the conditional split. There we go. So after 30 minutes, we're going to send email 1. Then 1 day later, we're going to send email 2. Then 1 day later again, we're going to send email 3. Let's call this 3. Then we're going to add another time delay. And then we're going to make a split. So what we're going to say, what someone has done, has placed order at least once over all time. So if yes, it means they are a returning customer. So this is email 4, returning customer. So again, I would recommend to not use a discount over here, or if you give a discount, use a lower discount. And then on the right side, this is going to be for non-buyers or first-time buyers. But at this point, they are a non-buyer. And then for them, we want to have 2 emails with a discount in it. So I'm going to add the time delay, 1 day. And then we're going to add email 5. There we go. So this is the structure that I would recommend for the abandoned cart flow. And now we're simply going to duplicate this and make the abandoned checkout version as I explained before. So we're going back to the cart flow, the demo flow. We're going to hit clone over here. We're going to call this abandoned checkout demo flow, continue. Now we have to change the trigger. So instead of added to cart, this is going to be checkout started. Super important. There we have it. So the only thing that we need to change over here, because the structure is going to remain the same, we just want to remove one filter. Checkout started 0 times in starting slow. We don't want to have this over here because this is checkout started. So it is important to remove this one. Hit save. And there we go. Other than that, it's completely the same. And this is how you set up the abandoned cart and checkout flow inside Klaviyo. Now let's walk through what needs to be inside every single email. So email 1 just has to be a simple reminder. So this one goes out fast, like 30 to 1 hour after abandonment, or sometimes even 50 minutes. With abandoned checkout, I think 50 minutes can also be good. Basically no drama, so no discounts, no overselling. It's just a simple reminder. Because keep in mind, most people, when they added a product to the cart and they don't finish the checkout, or they don't buy from you immediately, it's not because they say no to you. They just simply got distracted. People are on the phones, got 1,000 things going on in their lives, so they just got distracted. So this email is extremely, extremely simple. Just a simple reminder, show a dynamic product block, and show the risk reversal. So any guarantees, trials, free shipping, free returns, anything that you have within your store that can convince people to buy now, you should have it inside this email. So an example over here, so if you're getting something that looks like he left something tasty behind, dynamic product block over here, complete my order, why spice pots with 3 reasons, complete my order, and that's it. So super simple reminder, but this will convert like the majority of the people who just got distracted. So at least you got those covered already and they will buy immediately. Email 2, this will be a plain text check-in. So here's something that most e-com brands completely ignore. Like not everyone needs persuasion. So not everyone needs social proof and not everyone needs a discount. So I'm not the biggest fan of giving away discount code as soon as possible. So that's why the first 3 emails are not giving away discounts. We want to protect your margins. So sometimes people just need another reminder because they opened the first email and then they thought, yeah, I'll come back later, and then just life happened. So email 2 is not a heavy designed email. It's just a plain text founder message. The tone is simple. So yeah, hey, you left something behind, everything good. That's it. So again, no real pressure, no flashing banners, no discounts yet. Just a short human check-in, basically. So the angle that we like to use is something like, hey, notice you were checking out this product. Just wanted to make sure you didn't run into any issues. By the way, here's why people love us. So then you briefly reinforce what makes your brand strong, your core differentiator, your guarantee, your speed, your quality, your customer experience, and yeah, basically whatever what makes you generally stand out from your competitors. So keep it short. Don't use too long of emails. So 2 to 3 short paragraphs max, and end with a simple call to action. So here's your card if you still want it. And yeah, this email just works really, really well because it feels human. It's not overly salesy and it doesn't feel like an automation. And especially in 2026 now with Gmail's AI inbox, prioritizing conversational emails, yeah, this style of emails perform incredibly well. So what needs to be inside? So just your risk reversals. So highlight those. And if not, show some social proof. If you have like strong authority or social proof, And again, it's just a plain text check-in from the founder. So super casual, and that just performs really well. Then email 3. Now we're going to hit them with a different angle. We're going to do a bit more objection handling. Because by the time we get to email 3 or 3 days later, we need to be honest. If they didn't buy after the reminder and after the founder check-in, there probably is some friction, and friction kills conversions. So this email is not just about our brand is awesome. It's about addressing the real objections that are stopping someone from buying from you. And every brand has them, of course. So it can be something like, is it worth the price? How long will shipping take? What if it doesn't fit? What if it doesn't work? What if it's not as good as on the photos? Those are all concerns that people might have when they want to buy from you. So this is the stage where you attack those objections head on. So email 3 should highlight your strongest USPs, but frame them as answers to objections. So for example, if price is a concern, explain the durability, the warranty, the long-term value. If trust is a concern, show your guarantees, the certifications you might have, press mentions. If comparison shopping is happening, explain clearly how you are different from your competitors. So if you handle your objections properly here, you'll recover a surprising number of cards without ever having to offer a discount to them. And again, that protects your margins, and that's the whole point. I mean, it's super easy to make an abandoned cart flow where you just slap on a 20% discount in email 1. Yes, it will generate revenue, but it will also destroy your margins, and that's just not what we want. So again, what needs to be inside? So brand USPs or specific benefits of the product that they added to the cart, objection handling, and a dynamic product block. So an example over here from Smoko. So here's why customers choose Smoko: return to my cart, your save cart with the dynamic product block. It looks like your cart is still waiting. And then we show like a couple of risk reversals / USPs. So British made quality, because that's a huge concern for people when they buy such things. They're scared that it's like Chinese made. So that's why British made quality. 8% cheaper than cigarettes. So like the price concern, 100% BPA free, because that's often a concern, and highly rated service. So a bit of social proof over here. And then a call to action once again. So super simple, super easy, but it does convert without giving away a discount. Then we get into email 4. First, the non-buyer version. So for people who never bought from your store before. So we do want to give them a discount because we're at the escalation stage. So now let's get into email 4. So first of all, the non-buyer version, where we're going to give a discount to people who've never bought from you before, because we're now at the escalation stage. This is important. Email 4 should only go to people who have never purchased before. So in Klaviyo, you add a conditional split, as I just showed you. And for non-buyers, this is where we introduce the incentive to them. Up until now, of course, we've handled basic reminders. We've handled their objections. We've done some trust building. And if they still haven't converted, they probably need a financial nudge. So if they still haven't converted, they probably need like a financial nudge. So email 4 is just a clean, time-sensitive discount. Keep it simple. That's what it is. People just want a discount. That's it. So what needs to be inside? Discount code with a 48-hour deadline. We do want to use some urgency. So a dynamic product block, and optionally, you can also show some product recommendations with the Klaviyo product feed. So an example over here for Silly, take 10% off your cart. Yes, please, use code. Shop 10% off. Complete your order before it's lost with a dynamic product block, another CTA, and that's it. Super easy. We don't want to overcomplicate these type of emails. Then email 5. So this is for non-buyers. So the discount will be ending after this email. This is the last push, and it should be a plain text email because we sent a couple of designed emails again. So now we just want to have like a plain text, super short, direct email, plain text email from the founder. And again, this email just works because it feels human. It doesn't feel like automation, and it closes a surprising amount of revenue, especially for first-time buyers who are 90% convinced, but they just needed a deadline. Again, this part is only for the non-buyers. So what needs to be inside? A reminder of the discount. So give them the discount code, urgency. So there's only 24 hours left now after this email, and it should be a plain text email. There's a super short Example, so hey name, it's Melanie here, founder of SpiceBots. Just a personal check-in. Good news, you can still claim your offer with 10% off. Use code blah, 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 blah. A CTA, finish my order, and that's it. Super short, but it works. Then finally, we have email 4 for returning customers. So again, if someone has already bought from your store, we don't want to give them a discount. We just want to offer support. The strategy just changes, because if they already bought from you, they already trust you, already know the product quality, and they don't need aggressive persuasion. So instead of jumping straight to a discount, I prefer a plain text founder email here as well. So very simple, very human. So just an email like, hey, saw you were about to grab this. I just wanted to check in. Everything good? Let me know if you have questions about sizing, specs, delivery, whatever. So yeah, it should really feel like a concierge level service. And especially for like higher AOV brands, this performs extremely well, because then they really won't have that service that they would normally get in like a physical store. And at this stage, friction is usually about details and not necessarily about trust. And optionally, again, you can include a small incentive over here if your margins allow for it. But if you do, it should always be a smaller discount than what you offer to the non-buyers. So if non-buyers get 10%, maybe your returning customers get 5%. Because again, they already know the brand, and you don't need to train your loyal customers to expect full discounts every single time. We don't want discount seekers. We just want loyal customers that like your brand because of the quality and just the overall experience. So what needs to be inside? A plain text email from the founder where we offer support, and optionally, if your margins allow for it, you can give a small discount. And if you do give a discount, then of course you also need an email 5 for returning customers where we're saying that the discount is ending. So you can use like the similar structure as email 5 for non-buyers. And that's the structure that we recommend for an abandoned cart and abandoned checkout flow. All right, so now we've covered the flows that help you convert traffic into customers. But a lot of e-com brands make the mistake of stopping there. They put all their attention on acquiring the sale and then completely waste the most valuable moment in the customer lifecycle, which is right after someone buys. Because post-purchase is where you shape the customer experience, where you reduce buyer's remorse, increase retention, and set up that second order. In other words, this is the flow that helps turn a one-time customer into an actual customer relationship. So with that in mind, let's move into the post-purchase flow. So first, let's talk about the importance of the post-purchase flow. And the main reason is that it drives repeat purchases. So the post-purchase flow is one of the most effective tools for turning one-time buyers into repeat customers, which directly increases your store's revenue, of course. And research shows that retained customers are 9 times more likely to convert compared to new ones. And additionally, repeat customers spend 67% more than new customers. So again, it is super important to make sure that your first-time buyer gets converted into a repeat customer. Plus, what we typically see with most e-com brands is that most returning customers buy within 30 days after their initial order. So if you want to improve your first to second time purchase rate, you have to do this within the first 30 days. As you can see on this screenshot from one of our clients, you can see how their first to second purchase rate is and what the time between order is. Typically, we see that this is within the first 30 days. Same for this brand. So that's your biggest window of opportunity. And besides that, the post-purchase flow is also super important to make sure that you can reduce your returns to maximize your profit margins. Because buyer's remorse is a major reason for returns, which directly cuts into your profit margins. And a well-crafted post-purchase flow can minimize this by reinforcing the value of the purchase that they did. And data shows that 95% of the customers who receive proactive post-purchase communication are less likely to return their products. So providing usage tips, care instructions, building excitement in your post-purchase emails reduces the doubts that your new customer can have, and it helps ensure customers that are satisfied with their purchase. So fewer returns means more revenue that stays in your pocket. So with that being said, let's go into the post-purchase flow structure. And this is like a typical structure that we like to use. So the flow trigger, of course, is placed order. There are two flow filters that we like to use, which is placed order 0 times since starting this flow, which means that if someone did a purchase, receives the post-purchase flow, but does another purchase, they won't receive the rest of the post-purchase flow because that second purchase will already trigger the post-purchase flow. And the second filter is canceled order 0 times since starting this flow. So if someone purchases, gets the post-purchase flow, but then cancels their order, they won't receive the rest of the flow for obvious reasons. Then the flow structure itself. So typically we like to have a split between first time and returning customers. And in this example, you see we only have like one split, but of course you can make multiple splits between first time buyers, second time buyers, third time buyers, fourth time buyers, etc. For some brands, it does make sense, but for the majority of the brands, it's already good to at least start with first time buyer version and a returning customer version. So the first email, we like to send it after 10 minutes after the initial purchase, not immediately because they already receive the transactional emails via your Shopify or WooCommerce account with like their order details and shipping information. So you don't necessarily have to email them right away. So that's why we always recommend to wait like 10 minutes. And this first email is just a thank you email. So we thank them for buying. We give them the most important information and we already try to cross-sell them. Then 2 days later, we send them email 2, which is basically an email where we say, hey, your order is on its way. Of course, it also depends on your shipping times. But yeah, we just want to build excitement. And again, we want to try to cross-sell them to get them to buy again. Then we have like a split based on the product category or based on the product, depending on the size of your business and how many products you have. And with this email, we specifically want to give them more information about how to use their product in the best possible way. And of course, only if it makes sense for your brand. For example, if you're an apparel brand, this can be a lot more basic with just simple care instructions and you don't need those kind of splits. But if you have more of a technical product, it can be super interesting and super good to have like in-depth how-to guides to prepare people for their delivery and again build that excitement as well. The emails after that are more optional. So if social media is important to you and you're active on it, that's like super important as well. You can do a social media push because the more touch points you can have with your customers, the better it is to increase your repurchase rate. So if you have them on your email list, on your SMS list, on their social media via different channels, you can reach them in multiple ways. And again, this is just good to build a relationship and to increase your repurchase rate. Same for your loyalty system. If you have a loyalty system, push it as well and show them the perks that they have with your loyalty system. And then the last email, typically, this is when they already received your product, is a personal check-in, a plain text email from the founder where you ask them, how did everything go with their order? And again, you want to cross-sell them. So this is like a good structure that we typically like to use for our own clients as well. Before we move on, a quick reminder. If you want our exact post-purchase flow map, the email outlines and copy framework, you can download our free post-purchase playbook via the link in the description. Or if you want more Klaviyo tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. All right, let's continue. So how do you set this up in your Klaviyo account? Well, it's pretty simple. In your Klaviyo account, we're in a test account. In the left menu, you go to flows, and then in the top right corner you hit create flow, and over here you can already find like the default flows from Klaviyo, and we already see post-purchase follow-up, order count split. Then if you click on it, you can already see like a split that Klaviyo is using and a default flow. So let's call this post-purchase demo and use template. And once it's loaded, we're going to the trigger and we've got to make sure that we have the right filters. So what someone has done has placed order 0 times since starting this flow, and what someone has done, person has canceled order 0 times since starting this flow. Then, as I mentioned, we're not going to wait a day, we're going to wait 10 minutes. minutes before we send out email 1. And we're going to have a split where it says conditional split has place order equals 1 overall time. If yes, it's a new customer. If no, it's someone who has done like multiple orders. And as you can see in this default flow, they also have like a split for 2 times. So if it's no, then they have done like at least 3 purchases. So that's also a split that you can use. And when you send out emails in this flow, always make sure to turn off smart sending. So skip recently emailed profiles. You want to turn this off because if someone just did a purchase at your store, you do want to make sure that they get every single email of you. And let's say you've sent them a sale email and they bought via that email and it has been sent like, I don't know, within the last 12 hours, then they wouldn't receive this post-purchase flow. And that's of course not what you want. So always make sure to turn off smart sending for every single email in this flow. And that's how you create a simple flow structure for your post-purchase flow. Now let's dive into every single email and how it should look and what should be inside every single email. So the first email is just a super simple and basic thank you email. So this first email sets the tone for the post-purchase experience. And typically we like to use a plain text email directly sent from the founder. And for first-time buyers, this is your chance to make like a memorable impression. So you want to thank them for trusting your brand and reassure them that they made the right choice. For returning customers, of course, it's all about expressing your gratitude for their loyalty and reinforcing the value of their decision to come back to your brand. And again, you do want to make sure that those emails feel genuine and tailored towards their specific situation. So typically what you want to have inside is just a thank you. You want to confirm their order progress. So offer support and tell them what they can expect from you, from your brand. Of course, they already receive the transactional emails with like specific information, but still it's good to give like a general overview of what to expect. And optional, you can already like cross-sell them to increase the average order value, because again, the biggest window of opportunity is within the 30 days. And we see that with email 1, even if we just include the link to your website, it already gets like a really good place order rate, because people just ordered and maybe some other products could be super interesting for them to buy as well. So you can recommend a specific product as well. And we've seen some great results with that. So just a couple of examples over here. Again, it's all plain text and it's pretty short. You just want to thank them again, get some shipping information, and you want to lead them back to your website to again cross-sell them with a specific product or to get them at least back to your store. Over here, you can see some subject line ideas as well. But again, if you want to download this post-purchase guide for free, just click on the link in the description below. Email 2. So this email is all about the order being on their way. So typically it's sent like 2 days after the first email, and we just want to reassure them that their order is on their way. Again, we just want to reduce the buyer's remorse. So this email is really designed to build excitement about the purchase while also addressing any lingering buyer's remorse by reminding them of the value that they will soon experience, of course. And also you can use Klaviyo's product feed to recommend complementary items. So you can already try to cross-sell them to boost again that first to second purchase rate. So what needs to be inside this email? Reinforce the value of the purchase, build excitement for the delivery, and include recommendations either with static product blocks or with Klaviyo's product feed. So just some email examples over here. So flavor on the way, your spice pots are on the way. We're excited for you. While you wait, check these out. So we highlight some refills, a cookbook, a candle, and just a kit. So that's a way that you can do it. Another example, so complete your fitness nutrition, treat yourself to something extra. And with this email, we just show combinations that really go well, like the isolate with creatine or the multivitamin with the collagen or the isolate with the collagen plus. So these are all bundles that we recommend, and this way people can complete their stack. Another example where for this saber brand, where we say, hey, explore more sabers, and we show them recommended sabers based on their initial purchase, and we show them the mystery saber, which works really, really well because people are curious about that. So it creates a curiosity. And of course, always end with like a shop all button to at least get people and get traffic to your store. Again, some subject line and even preview text ideas over here. Then email 3. This is more of a how-to email, and this email is split based on the product or based on the product category that the customer has ordered. We want to be as specific as possible And we don't just want to send like a generic email that's not applicable to someone's order. That would really hurt the customer experience. And the goal really is to help them out, get the most of their purchase. So we just want to provide them with valuable tips and guidance. And this will reduce the likelihood of returns. It will improve the customer experience. And you basically want to show your customers that you genuinely care about their satisfaction. So what needs to be inside? Personalization based on their purchase, clear actionable product tips, again, reassurance that they made a good choice, and optional links to frequently asked questions, manuals, videos, stuff like that. So an example, getting started with your smoker e-cigarette. So how to use your e-cigarette in 3 simple steps, when to change your refill, and information about recharging your battery. So for this brand, this is like super valuable information to share with new customers. Another example for this tea brand, Siesta Tea, we show them exactly how to brew, and we link them to a blog where they can find more information about temperatures and steep times and stuff like that. Then email 4. So this is optionally a social media push, and this encourages customers to follow your main social media channel. Again, super important to have like multiple touch points via different channels with your new customers. So yeah, it's just a simple invitation to follow you on social media. So for this brand, we say, let's get social, join the silly party on social media. Follow now, and they can even win some money if they tag your brand. So that's also a good way. And over here for Savers Pro, be part of the galaxy. So follow on Instagram or follow on Facebook. Email 5, again, optionally a loyalty system push. So this optional email is a great way to introduce your loyalty program and explain the benefits of joining it. So by encouraging your customers to enroll, you can boost the customer retention and incentivize repeat purchases. Loyalty systems, I think, are going to be super important in the upcoming years. So definitely recommend it to, first of all, have a loyalty system and to push it inside your post-purchase flow. And this is how it can look like. So earn points, save money. With Smoker points, you can earn rewards every time you shop, review, and refer a friend. And yeah, we can have a quick explanation over here, and we guide them towards a page where they can find more information. The main thing that you want to make sure of is that you immediately make clear what the benefit is for your customer on why they should join your loyalty system, because people will only join it if there's a clear benefit for them, which usually is like discounts that people can get. And then finally, email 6. This is the personal check-in and one of the emails that generates the most amount of revenue, to be honest. Just a personal touch point with the founder with a plain text email to make sure that the customer experience was all smooth, everything went smooth with their order. So it just shows that your brand generally cares about the satisfaction. And in addition to offering support, this email can encourage your customers to make another purchase if they're happy with their initial purchase, of course. So just a simple email like this, couple of lines, and we just guide people towards the website, and you just want to offer support and make sure that everything went well with their initial purchase. So those are the core Klaviyo flows I want to place for pretty much any e-com brand. We've covered your welcome flow, your browse abandonment flow, your abandoned cart flow, your abandoned checkout flow, and of course your post-purchase flow. And together, these 5 flows cover the most important moments in the customer journey. If you set these up properly, you're not just sending more emails, you're building an actual system that captures new leads, recovers missed opportunities, converts high-intent shoppers, and increases customer lifetime value after the sale. And that's really the big takeaway here. Before you go chasing advanced tactics, fancy automation ideas, or a bloated flow setup, make sure these core flows are dialed in first. For most e-com brands, this is where the vast majority of the opportunity is. So if you want to build a Klaviyo account that actually drives revenue, start right here. Implement these flows properly and then optimize from there. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and check out all my other Klaviyo tutorials if you want to go deeper into sign-up forms, campaigns, email deliverability, and the rest of your email marketing system. For now, I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.